Okay, this is a video about painting kitchen cabinets. I looked online, I looked on YouTube. All of them were pretty mismatched. They didn't really tell you what materials they used or exactly how they did it. I'm going to try to do that here. And I'll tell you what I used, what I bought, and how it came out. I could even show you the before and after picture. You could see the above cabinet, what it looks like, and you can see the below cabinet, what it was. And over here is basically a real good side-by-side view of what it used to be and then what I made it. They used to be melamine cabinets, plain white melamine, and someone before me, before I bought the place, had moved in and obviously just, you can see it was just smooth white melamine. Well, they put some kind of varnish, stain, mixture, whatever they wanted to do, and it really came out horrible with lots of drips and lots of grain going the wrong way. And I said, what am I going to do? I don't want to spend $15,000 on a kitchen, so what am I going to do? So what I ended up doing was picking some brains of people I knew and just talking to painters and things like that, and here's what I came up with. And I'm doing all of this. I'm going to end up doing almost 20 doors, probably 8 drawers, for probably right around $200. And that's total and everything with changing the hardware and everything. So I'm going to try to explain it to you and the process I went through to get these, to get basically this looking like this. All right, I'll show you the materials over here. Here we go. Basically, I used the Ryobi sander that I bought at Home Depot for about 24 bucks. It's a great little tool. And it comes with these pads. This is 120 grit. So I basically used that just to take down the grooves that they had left and with their varnishes and the drips and all the grit that they had in it. So that took me probably 5 minutes per door to get it good. One thing you have to be careful when you're sanding melamine with a palm orbital sander like this is when you come to the edges and corners, you can easily burn the melamine right down and off. Be very careful on the edges. The flat surface, you can usually push it. I didn't have to take all the varnish off. I just had to smooth it down, and it did a very good job. Took it very smooth to the finish, and then after that, a good wash, wet, damp washcloth, used like a tack cloth. Once I wiped all the dust off, this is one of the most important steps coming up. I used this deglosser from Home Depot, about $8 for that, with a lint-free rag. You soak the rag and you use the deglosser on the whole door, including in the grooves, which I never sanded. All I did was use the deglosser. I didn't have to sand it because in the grooves it didn't need sanding, but the deglosser was enough to make this bare primer stick. This is just plain bare all-in-one primer and sealer, and that is the best stuff I could have found to seal it. And then with the paint, it was the Bare Premium Ultra. I use semi-gloss. You could use satin, you could use eggshell, whatever you like, but satin and semi clean up the best. And this also has a primer in it, but I went with the extra primer to be sure for the adhesion, to make sure it adheres. So it was one good coat of the primer, 2 good coats of this, and it was just applied with this 6-inch. This is a wonderful setup here. You could get this set up at Home Depot. Oh, by the way, these two paint, the primer was about $8. The paint was like $15. This setup here is about $12 right here. You need a good 1-inch brush to paint in between the grooves. I'll go over there now, just explain it. These are the grooves that I didn't degloss, right? I'm sorry, I didn't sand. I sanded all these surfaces, the flat, but in here, just the brush, brushed it in, and I got such a beautiful result here. Because after you get the brush in, be sure to just at about a 45-degree angle, set your brush and tip it all off. Just tip it off both ways very lightly with the tip of the brush. Tipping off in painting is the key to getting it smooth. And I also had these doors off, laying down. They were on the ground, and a good trick was, it was laying on a box which was smaller than the door. Therefore, I was able to paint it, get the edges real well and everything, and roll it, let it dry. Let it dry very well. They say you can, the primer, you could paint with the primer right after you degloss, like probably within 20 minutes. The primer takes about, I let it dry for about an hour after that I put the first coat of primer on. Then I put the regular paint on. And they said the regular paint, you could paint 2 hours later with your second coat. I didn't take a chance. I waited overnight to put my second coat on. Put my second coat on, waited about 7 to 8 hours, and then I hung them and put the new hardware on. New hardware makes a tremendous amount of difference. And like I said, I chose semi-gloss just for personal preference. It gives a nice sheen. And the hardware is very, very important. I mean, you can't even stress how much the hardware is. You could spend anywhere from what they spent, that little knob's about 90 cents, to what I spent, that was $4, and it just sets off. It just makes it look so much better, and it's so much more practical. So spend a little bit of money on the knobs, and you'll be looking good. And if you have just melamine, without this disgusting varnish that they put over these, you don't have to use the sander. All you have to do is degloss it. The deglosser gives you all the directions. You just soak that lint-free rag. Very important to use that lint-free rag I showed you. You don't want to get lint coming off a regular type washcloth or rag. So just a lint-free rag, and then prime and paint. You're good to go if you don't have this disgusting stuff on it. So I'll just run over it one more time. I had a 1-inch angle sash brush, Purdy, which cost about $7. 2 6-inch, 1/4-inch nap smooth surface rollers. It says for cabinets and for smooth objects. Those were about $10 for 2 of them. Well worth the investment. And used one for the primer, one for the paint. Cleaned up very well. I've used them twice. Good lint-free rag, the Canada Glosser, $8 for that. Quart of primer, $8 or $9. Quart of the Bear Ultra, which was like $15. And then the sander, 120 grit. So I was basically $100 worth of stuff. The knobs that I bought for all these cabinets were about $100, and I was good to go. So that's my take on all this. If you have any questions, post them to this site. I'll try and answer them for you. But I mean, how they turned out is like total night and day. You can see I still have some work to do. I'm probably about a third of the way done with the kitchen. I have the bases done in another part of the kitchen, and I'm just going to start on the rest now and just do it. So good luck, and like I said, any questions, just ask on this site, and I will try and answer them the best I can.